Hello and welcome to this industry update. I'm Anthony Smith, and in office I have a special guest with us. I have Michelle Hawkerson, CEO and owner of Hassett Logistics. Michelle, thanks for coming back in.
Great to be back, Anthony.
So Michelle, one of the things we're going to talk about is leadership in times of disruption. Now, it's no secret that there's been a significant disruption in the space, not just this space, but throughout the world over the last 18 months. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that Hassett is really focused on throughout this time of disruption?
Sure. Well, as we're both well aware, supply chain and logistics are now common terms that everyone knows about, not just in our industry, but it's become almost kitchen table conversation. Everyone knows that it's taking a long time to get toilet paper and plastic bottles around the world. So I don't know if our industry is cool now necessarily, but at least it's understood a little better. And it's certainly impacted us. What I find interesting, though, about disruption in general is that a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, that's seemed to be the cool thing in our industry. If you weren't a startup or even an existing company and you weren't disrupting something, it didn't seem like you were making enough noise. It had to be that, just running a company or making incremental changes wasn't enough. And I'm all for innovation and I think a transformation that we've talked about before, but it had to be like blowing things up. And I never quite understood that, because if you're a high-performing company that's committed to your customers who expect you to be reliable and consistent in your service offerings, they really don't want somebody that's off disrupting things. So here we are now presented over the last 2 years or 18 months with the ultimate disruption, capital D. And I don't hear that so much anymore, companies talking about that. So maybe they've had to pivot and actually focus on performance and some of those fundamentals. So when we bring it back to what you're asking, how did we deal with it? I think those fundamentals served us well. In fact, in our value proposition, two of the key things are reliability and flexibility. Those things are paramount to our customers. It's got to be reliable, consistent service, but we got to be flexible in the solutions we deliver. And we've always had to do that because we focus more on time-sensitive and time-definite solutions. And that sure changed over the last 18 months of what that definition is. So that served us well doing that, but it's not even in how we did solutions for transportation. It was kind of in just how we were running the business, a lot of flexibility.
So I had the chance to catch up with you before we started shooting, and one of the things we're talking about is those core values in a company. I mean, I think one of the words that you mentioned was trust, and that's really something that resonated with me. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that's been impactful for your company?
Sure. To me, that's just a foundation thing, and it is a core value for us. First, trust within the company and the team. If you don't have that, you have to build it over time. It doesn't come quickly, but then you got to demonstrate it not only in the good times where it's easier, but in the tough times. So when the pandemic hit, one of our segments is focused around entertainment and events. Well, obviously that shut down very abruptly. A segment you would never think is kind of recession-proof, other things just stopped. But we look at ourselves as one big team. So our job number one was protect the team. We're one big team. So we had no layoffs, no job losses. There were no wage freezes. We just shifted people around, used it as an opportunity to do some other things or cross-train, but to make sure everybody understood jobs were protected. Within Hassett, everything was good. Couldn't control the world, but we could control what was happening within the company. So that was important, so that people felt that trust and comfort within the company. But that trust extends also to safety. We, as essential workers, we had to stay open. Our drivers, protecting them, buying things like electrostatic machines that we could spray our facilities and our trucks to make sure that we were following all the protocols to keep people safe. And that trust isn't just to the company, to team members, it's amongst team members. Everybody had a responsibility to keep one another safe and keep their families safe. So I think that permeates throughout. And that extends to partners and customers too. They have to be able to trust that you're doing the right things for them in their business, and partners as well. That you're working side by side to get through some of those challenging times.
So that's one of the big things here, the challenging times. And also one of the things you touched on is doing things the right way when times are good. And so Can you talk about that adjustment or not needing to have to adjust when times are disruptive, I should say, and how much easier, how much simpler things are to adjust or kind of keep things moving forward?
Well, when you have, I guess when you have those kind of core competencies and core values in the right alignment, it is easier to adjust, good or bad. Yeah, you have to still make tweaks. You may have to look at your processes a little differently, but you're not, shall I say, disrupting how you run things. You can lean upon those things, and you can lean upon those same people to know we're going to still work together. We are problem solvers. We might just be solving different problems.
Right.
And you know still how to get the work done. And I think that there's a comfort in that even when things are out of your control, maybe outside of your world, you know you can still control things within our world. And that gives people a sense of confidence to get the work done, that they know they can control certain things and they're going to still have success and they're going to make their customers happy even when they might not be performing always 100% because of things out of their control, but they're going to do it to the best of their ability and they are going to make them happy.
It's a big part of it. And so one of the other areas we're talking about is within your company, when times are good, you can hide a lot. Not a lot of things can really get swept under the rug when times are bad during, pandemics, as we've just seen. Now, the question I'm asking is, if someone had a lot of areas of concern when times were good, they were sweeping a lot of things under the rug, is it too late for them to adjust in the midst of disruptive times?
Oh, I don't think it's ever too late to make adjustments or to change. Because you're right. In good times, it's easy to miss things or to ignore them because it can be covered up, whether it be cost inefficiencies, process inefficiencies, or maybe even people in the wrong spots. But when problems happen or things like this come up, it can put a spotlight on those things. But I think you have to address them. You have to want to address them. I think at that point you have no choice. If you ignore them, maybe things won't work out so well, but it's never too late to change things. You just got to have that desire to improve things. I mean, even during the pandemic, we were taking on major system changes. And that's a company that had used some of those systems for 20 plus years. So I don't think it's ever too late or an inopportune time to kind of do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us today, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to learn more, of course, go to HassettLogistics.com. Thanks so much for tuning in for this logistics update, and we'll see you on the next one.